Why not? That's the American way. She's American. They do that. No. So I don't know how many of you have never heard about Silicon Vikings before. Raise a hand. Oh, yes, really? Well, we do have two people that don't know about us. I guess our brand is growing out there. So Silicon Vikings is a business networking organization that basically connects the Nordic region's innovation ecosystem, that is startups, entrepreneurs, VCs, and so on, with Silicon Valley's ecosystem. And we work with 6 countries today. And I say today because more people or countries think that they're Vikings, so they should be part of us. So we have Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Estonia. And probably very soon we'll cover all of Northern Europe. And what we do is mainly 3 things. We do events like these. We do mainly events around different technology sectors. We have 5 special interest groups in mobile gaming, entrepreneurship and learning, cloud and social media, life science, and clean tech. And so we do a lot of events around that, about 60 events per year, here and in the Nordic countries, so we have chapters in the Nordics as well. Our second part is to promote and brand and push and really make sure that the Nordics are a very huge and strong brand out there. So we work a lot with different PR strategies to do that. And if you're not following us, get in there on our socials, Silicon Vikings, not hard to find us, and follow us in all our channels. Of course, Wrapp is one of the foremost brands that we are pushing out there. And we're really proud of Wrapp as a Nordic brand. What else do? We do projects. We do different best practices, Silicon Valley inspiration, knowledge sharing projects. So we're really happy and pleased to start this new series that we call Nordic, what do we call it again? Success Story of a Nordic Startup. All right. So Wrapp is actually the first one in that series, and we always want to do this together with a co-organizer that is actually representing the country where the company comes from in the Nordics. And for this one, we have Sweden. Woo! And Emily, the Executive Director of Swedish American Chamber of Commerce, will tell us a bit more about what you guys do. Thank you. Cheers! Woo!
Thank you very much. It's very nice to see so many of you here today. As Adiba said, my name is Emily Höglund and I work for the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce. So our focus is a bit more narrow than yours, but not the least very important. We're actually part of a wider network that comprises almost 20 Swedish American chambers across the United States, and we serve close to 2,300 members doing this. And our common mission is that we try to connect Sweden to our local area of interest, and to enhance trade, to enhance investment and commerce between the Bay Area and Sweden is our core business, our main objective. And we are convinced that this means to strengthen the ties between people professionally but also socially. So I hope you're enjoying yourself. Looks like you are. And that you're all prepared to listen to this Swedish or Nordic success story this evening. And before I give you the mic back, I would like to thank you very much and the whole Silicon Vikings for very good cooperation. I would like to thank the team and Wrapp, of course, for all the hard work that they did.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, the thanks are very, very important. So we would like to thank the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce for co-organizing this with us. We're very happy and proud to be a partner with you guys. We also have some main sponsors that we'd like to thank. That are main sponsors of Silicon Vikings. We have SAS, Scandinavian Airlines, takes you directly from San Francisco to Copenhagen. Then we have Bank of the West. We have Julien with us here. There you go. The only and the best European bank in Silicon Valley. So use them. Talk to Julianne. We also have Sköna, which is an advertising bureau. That is our creative partner. We have Babson College. They're actually top 1 entrepreneurship school in the US. They just started a school here in San Francisco. We have, let's see, did I get them all? We usually have like a screen so I can sneak peek, but didn't have it this time. And of course, our host for this evening is none other than KNL Gates and Lars Johansson. There you are. This is, thank you, Lars. This is actually the second event we do with KNL Gates today. We had a pitching event this morning at 7:30 a.m. with Sweden over Skype at KNL Gates. We do that too. Thank you so much, Lars. Would you like to say a couple of words?
I'll be very short. I want to listen to the presentation, but it's always a pleasure to work with you, Adiba, and the team at Silicon Vikings. In terms of the law firm, we're the biggest law firm worldwide as an integrated partnership. We do a lot of high-tech stuff. We work with startups, and we do a lot of different things. So on that note, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lars. So I would like to just, before we get the special keynote or the main person or profile we want to have up here, I just want to say some words to kind of introduce him. So this guy, he's known as Sweden's most successful and experienced serial entrepreneur. And that's actually, there are a lot of them, so, or we have a lot of really good entrepreneurs, and I would say that Hjalmar is the top 5 in Sweden throughout the years, Swedish history. He did start very early. Looking at him, you would think that he was like 10 or 12 when he started, because he started in 1990 with a courier company just right out of high school, I think it was, called Pedal. And then went on and started something called Send It. That was basically the first mobile internet in 1994. And Send It became a huge success story and sold to Microsoft for about $200 million at that time in 1999. But I know that there was a lot of other things happening with that company as well, and I will let Hjalmar tell you about that. And then Hjalmar went on after, you know, when you're acquired by a large corporation, you have to stay with them for a while. But after that, and when he was done with that period, he could go on and start another company, which was Reptile Networks, which is basically the world's largest independent mobile VoIP company, voice over IP, in 2006. And Hjalmar is still the chairman of that company. And he has so many things. I don't know how you manage to do all the things you do. This guy have a long list. He is an advisor, a mentor on several boards. He's with equity partners, Creandum. He's an investor in several companies that you haven't heard about quite yet, but you will very soon. I'm allowed to say it's iSettle, Epidemic Sound. And of course, what we're here for this evening, him being the CEO and co-founder of Wrapp. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Hjalmar Winbladh. Woo! Of course, it's a long intro, Hjalmar. You've had a long story of being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to actually start with, I don't know if you want to do this, or do you want to hold it?
If it works. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
So basically, I would like to hear more about your story. This was me just giving you guys a glimpse of what this guy has done. I'm going to hold this like this. But I know that you've had an adventure, to say the least. So would you like to give us some glimpses out of that as well, with some more of your own stories?
I mean, I think, you know, I usually now quote myself saying I'm a dinosaur in this industry since I've been here from the very beginning. I started Send It already back in 1994, and put that in a perspective, that's the year Mark Andreessen came out with a browser here in this area called Netscape. And I had a vision when I heard about that, which was that, of course, this shit should go over mobile phones instead. The caveat back then was that GSM, which was brand new in Europe back then, did hardly have coverage between Stockholm and Arlanda, which is the city airport. I remember I was talking to the third GSM operator that launched pretty much simultaneously in Sweden. They had 13 base stations in Stockholm, but they said they had coverage because they had voicemail, which was very innovative back then, which was that if you didn't have coverage, you know, you got recorded into a voicemail system, which is back in '94 was like high tech. Back then, voicemail was a tape recorder to your fixed phone in your house. But I had a vision about that this thing they called internet and web browsing and email should go over mobile networks back then. And you know, looking back, it's quite scary to know that I'm probably the oldest still operating mobile internet CEO in the world since that was in '94. So I've pretty much been in this industry from the very beginning.
That's wonderful. And what was it that, I mean, you were very, very young when you started. What was it that motivated you?
I mean, that's kind of the way I work. I mean, I always have passion for innovation, and I love technology, and I like to figure out what you can do with new technologies and how you can adapt new technologies to new business models. And the more difficult it sounds, the more excited I get about it. So of course, in 1994, things that are quite obvious today in 2013, something like called mobile internet will happen. Wasn't that obvious back then. So I just felt that I like big trends, and back then digital mobile telephony, I believe that's going to be big, and I believe that this new thing called hyperlinking over internet, which was web browsing, and something called email, SMTP POP3 IMF4 will actually be big. How will people going to message with each other? Which is, of course, in 2013 sounds quite obvious. So I kind of bet that it's an opportunity for being an entrepreneur in this space and build a company. But honestly, '94 was probably half a decade too early. Looking back at it.
And looking back, so what would you say has been the most challenging bits in your journey?
I mean, I think the way I look at entrepreneurship is it's a string of failures that leads to success. So I always like to test new things, and the more difficult it is, the more important it is to try it out and kind of know that you will most likely fail, but you should not look at failure as something bad. You should look at as a learning process. So it's more important to fail fast, adapt, and then correct, and then iterate your products towards the success. And if you're very early, you actually aggregate a lot of experience in your field doing that. But of course you stand the risk if you're too early. And I think the problem we had with Sendit, and I usually look back at my companies as more or less failures, all of them, in that sense that with Sendit, even though from the outside it looked like a success, we took the company public in '97, which was definitely not the right thing to do with that company. But that's another story. And then it got acquired by Microsoft in '99. We took some very bad technology decisions early with that company that we had a hard time to correct, and that was that we decided to actually build mobile internet infrastructure on top of Windows NT from Microsoft, which I think we were quite alone back then, and probably would have been if we would still be alive with that company. But it was interesting then that we ended up being acquired by Microsoft actually, which was not actually a purpose. I was just extremely frustrated with Microsoft in '99, where the company started to scale, got more users on its platforms, and we had massive issues with our underlying technology. So I actually was on a tour going out to Seattle more to scream and yell at them that they need to get their shit together, and I'm not out there talking to mobile operators selling their stuff, I'm trying to sell my stuff. So they better either join me to sell their stuff, or I have to port it to Unix or other platforms, which of course is quite difficult to do when you have invested so much in a platform. And 3 months later, or 2.5 months later, they acquired a company instead, which was an interesting twist on that one.
Definitely. What would you say if you would give, what would be the most crucial factor to actually be able to build a strong company?
I think it's important when you join a startup and then when you're part of a startup that it's a journey. And the journey is that you have taken an active decision as a founder, as a co-founder, as one of the first employees in a company to join something which is unknown, that the company is on a journey to test things that no one else have done before, and that you are experimenting to put new technology with new business models together, but you're kind of taking a bet where the whole industry is going, and that's the bet I usually do with my companies, and then trying to get people excited about being part of that journey. And I think the journey is super important for all participants to understand that this is the goal is to be part of that journey rather than actually seek kind of finish line of that journey, and that you should not celebrate the failure, but you should celebrate learning from failures, to understand that actually failures is actually a very big part of doing startups and taking risks.